Yo, what up? Welcome to Free Refills Podcast, where we come together as youth leaders to discuss the realities of leading in youth ministry. Our hope is that you leave refilled, refueled, and re-energized to carry on in youth ministry. My name is Boss. I'm coming to you from Indianapolis, Indiana, and I'm your host. And I'm flying with my boys, Dusty.
What's up?
Who's in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and Nick.
How's it going?
Who's in Sparks, Nevada, as he prefers it called. And we are here with another episode of Free Refills Podcast. Each month we have a special guest that joins us. Actually, more than each month. We have multiple episodes each month. So we have a special guest that joins us every episode. And today we've got Vince Parker. Vince, welcome.
Oh, thanks for having me, man. It's an honor. It's a privilege. Glad to be here today, guys.
Well, Vince, before we jump into the discussion for today, tell us a little bit about yourself. Where are you located? Tell us about your family, and how long have you been in youth ministry?
Yeah, sure thing. I am located in OKC, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. Been here most of my life, except for some time I spent in the Army. I've been married for 12, going on 13 amazing years to my lovely wife, Melissa.
Wow.
We've got a 17-year-old daughter named Adriana, who actually graduated high school last year, and she's actually about to graduate cosmetology school, so she loves all things hair and makeup. I've been on staff at Life Church for almost 12 years now. I've been in youth ministry full-time for about 8 of that. So I started off as an associate youth pastor, then became a youth pastor at one of our locations when we opened a new location up in my hometown. That was really exciting to get back and do youth ministry where I grew up. Schools are much smaller once you're a full-size person walking into them than you remember. Let's just be honest, man.
Yeah.
And but then I felt called to be a campus pastor at a new location we launched in Oklahoma City. Did that for about 3.5 years, almost 4 years. And recently, the role I'm in now is I actually oversee youth ministry for all of Life Church. And so I'm blessed to do that. I get to serve the church in that way. So love it, excited for it, and excited to be here.
That's awesome. Thanks, man. So Dusty and Nick, they've got some fun questions for you to kind of break the ice a little bit.
All right, let's go. Come on.
So we'll start you out with the question we ask everybody. The podcast is called Free Refills. So the question is, what is your go-to soft drink? What's the one that you gotta have?
Oh, I do not drink soda. I gave it up 2 years ago. The only time I drink soda is when I'm on a road trip with my daughter and we're going to a concert. Like, let's say we're going to see Lecrae or Tripoli or someone like that, and we drive to Texas. When we go back to the hotel at night, we always stop by a Quick Trip or whatever the local amazing gas station is and grab our favorite nighttime snack. For me, it is peanut M&Ms and a Dr. Pepper. And for my daughter, it is a fountain Dr. Pepper and some Funyuns. And we do that. That's the only time I drink soda. So I would say Dr. Pepper, but that's about 4 times a year.
That's great.
Well, that's good. I love that you have an option, because like some people will come on and be like, I just drink water. And we're like no, just water. I'm like, okay, cool. Next question. Which is like, it's fine. I love that you're healthy, but like, give us something. So I love that you have like this guilty pleasure. So at some point, okay. So I know that you're a sneakerhead, right? Like if anybody follows you on Instagram, right? They're going to find that you love sneakers. So what is your favorite pair of all time sneaker?
It's a good question. My favorite pair of all time is the Jordan 1 model. It's the model that started it all. It's the favorite silhouette. I have 25 plus pairs of the just Jordan 1s.
Wow.
So just Jordan 1s. My favorite shoe of all time, I don't know why, but it's actually the Jordan 13 Flint. I was in the Army when I picked up this particular pair. It was one I stayed up overnight for. Back in the day when you had to wait in line overnight, most places don't even do that anymore. It's illegal in most malls. And I just remember walking in, grabbing a pair, being pumped, love it. And I'm excited because it actually re-releases this year, and I need a fresh pair because I don't have my pair anymore. But yeah, so a couple of weeks away, I will get a new pair of what is my particular favorite shoe of one of all time. I hope it lives up to the hype I remember it being, because sometimes, I'm being honest, shoes don't. I get it, and I'm like, I'm not sure why I bought this.
That's good. That's good. I'll let Nick take the next one.
Yeah. So one of my favorite questions to ask is books. So what book are you in right now? What book are you reading? And would you recommend it to us?
Okay. First up, I love books, but I do not read. I am an Audible person. Okay? Audible is king. Reading tells my mind to shut down and fall asleep. I can get about 10 pages in reading. But
Preach.
Audible is my jam. So I will give you my two, what I'm reading, and then my current favorite book of the last year. Sound good?
Yeah.
Okay, so here's the deal. What I am reading right now is The Motive by Patrick Lencioni. Great book, love it. I should wrap it up by the end of this week. It's a short book, but I'm enjoying this nice slow down time as we are, as it is. I'm not sure when this will release, and my favorite current book of the past year is The Art of Gathering by Priya Parker. That if you read that book, that's a game changer. I'm just telling you right now. If you gather people in groups of more than 3, you should read that book.
Wow.
Personally, I have not read a book that made me go. I reread that book 7 times before I finished it.
Wow.
All
right. Well, we'll definitely put that in the show notes, so that way we can.
So then you don't have to call me back on the podcast, but you can just call me and be like, "All right, Vince, I read it."
I'll hit you up. I'll put it on my list. Yeah. So okay, last question. We'll actually get to the meat of this, but I feel like we have to address it. The Last Dance. All right, it's out here. We got no sports. We got no sports, right? So The Last Dance is all we have, right?
Right.
Give us, if you could sum up what you've seen so far. We've only been through 4 episodes. What is your biggest takeaway?
Man, this seems like such a small thing, but it's the one thing I mentioned to anyone who hasn't watched it or seen it. In episode 1, I had no clue. I love Phil Jackson. Probably one of my favorite NBA coaches of all time. That Chicago Bulls is my favorite team. But knowing that he named every season and called that season The Last Dance, I was like, come on. Like that.
Yeah.
I knew that we was in for a treat. I was excited about Jordan. You knew you were going to see his greatest highlights. You knew you were going to hear about one of the greatest seasons in the NBA ever. But just to know that he named every season, he just started it out, and you're like, okay. And to know, you're just like, oh, man, there's so much leadership nuggets inside The Last Dance. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's from the jealousy of ownership to I got to tear this down because players don't win championships. Okay. All right. Okay. I don't know who does because I don't see owners out there dribbling basketball. But
right. And the way he handled Rodman, of all people, was so impressive. Okay, so real quick, I have to ask because I got in this debate as soon as already in episode 4. After watching the Bad Boy Pistons, could LeBron hang in that era? Because I feel like he flops all the time. I just need to know.
So here's the deal. I'm going to say this, just to be clear for all the youngsters out there. The greatest player of all time is a young man by the name of Michael Jordan. Okay?
Educate them.
If you have watched them both play in person, I have.
It's good.
Michael Jordan, greatest of all time. But the question is, could LeBron hang? LeBron's dedication to self-care, to self-perseverance is probably second to none. Only he and Tom Brady are two of the people out there who go beyond the next level to extend their ability to play beyond. And you have to admire that. LeBron's dedication to his hard work. So could LeBron James play in that time? I'm going to say yes. Because here's the thing about LeBron James and how he plays. When the league said stop flopping, if you pay attention to LeBron, he stopped. LeBron knows how to play the game, right? There are other players, I will mention no names, who they said flopping's a foul. They couldn't stop. LeBron, if you pay attention, LeBron knew how to flop in front of the right referees. He knew exactly what he wouldn't. If he had refs who wouldn't call it, he wouldn't do it. If you go back and watch LeBron game footage, I'm just telling you, LeBron is a smart player, and that dude is huge. Like that's an NBA player who could play in the NFL.
Yeah.
Like, so listen, MJ, greatest player. Could LeBron play during that time? I think LeBron could. I've had some other analysis list out some players who I'm like, no, they wouldn't make it. They're athletic, but they would have got beat down. LeBron is a freight train.
Yeah,
not
that's fair.
MJ, but I'm telling you, that dude is strong. He is solid. Yeah, that dude's a rock. I will give it up to LeBron and his dedication to the game. I will do that. But he's not MJ.
Yeah. Well, thank you for stepping out there and doing that.
That's good. Well, you mentioned leadership, and that's what we're here for, is to talk about leadership lessons, and we're talking about youth ministry and how all of that stuff collides together for us, and especially in this time where we are in quarantine, we're in shelter in place, we're in stay at home, we're in the middle of the COVID-19 crisis, and that's really what we want to talk about today is what we're learning about this, how this is changing ministry, what sort of things we're going to hold on to, and what sort of things we're going to let go, but then also personally inside of us, like how this is changing us or revealing things in us as leaders in ministry. So Vince, like you've got this this scope of ministry where you have the opportunity to see it across multiple campuses, lead teams, that sort of stuff. So you have a lot of chances for I would assume you get to take in so much and get to hear a lot of different perspectives of what ministry looks like, even just within your church. So what are some things, just to kind of kick us off, like that are standing out about ministry right now in youth ministry right now in the middle of this crisis?
Oh man, I gotta say, during the middle of all this, I've never probably been more excited for youth ministry. I love the fact that Gen Z, the largest generation we know, the most diverse generation we know, that lives online 4 to 5 hours a day, that we, the church, are almost forced to go to their home to bring them the gospel, to disciple them, to love them, to care for them. And there just were not a lot of youth ministries that were doing that.
Yeah.
Right? They were like, well, this is who's walked to my door. I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm just saying they weren't a lot. But all these kids had friends who game all the time, who spend hours on social media, who existed in these places, who are publishers and who loved all these things. And now they're out there. And so I think what the church is learning is how I've been saying is how do you create healthy online relational community, not simply put content out there. Right? There's lots of content out there. I could, before this went down, point you to 4 or 5 youth groups who had great content online. You can go check it out. But the key is how do you create healthy online relational community? Because we all know we grow best in the context of trusted relationships. Right? But when you can't be within 6 feet of someone, or depending on where you live, you can't even really leave your home. Right. So how do you have that relationship? How do you build that intentionally, especially for a generation who goes, hey, the places you're coming online, I've been here. Hello, I've been here. You can't kick down my front door and tell me what to do, because that's how they feel. It's different. When I love church online. I love seeing churches do that. For adults, it's different. Your average adult may be on Facebook or in some kind of forum where they post a comment, wait for somebody to respond, and a week later they go back and see what the result was, or they're trying to sell an old couch on Facebook, or they're part of a book club. That's not existing online where your best friends live in a spot, where they live in a space. So again, the goal and the things they're excited about is that people are learning, seeing. That's what we're doing. We're creating healthy online relational community.
That's good. So what is that? I mean, let's push into that a little bit. What does that look like then for somebody who's hearing that going, okay, but how do you distinguish between content and relational online community?
Good.
So for instance, if I were, it doesn't matter the size of your small group. I don't care if you've got 10 kids or 10,000 kids. It doesn't matter, right? You every youth group I know in America, every friend I has that's in youth ministry has leaders. Here's the question. How are you first communicating with your leaders? Are you emailing them or texting them and saying, hey, connect with your students? Well, that's good communication. You should send that communication out. But healthy relationships are, hey, how you doing? How's this affected you? What's going on with you? Tell me about it. Oh, you're excited about this because your spouse travels a lot and they didn't lose their job, but they have to stay home, and that's what you've been praying for? That's great. Oh, this sucks. You lost your job? Oh, sorry to hear that. Oh, you just found out you had a family member who has COVID? Oh, how can I pray for you? Oh, you're immune compromised. You can't go out. Well, can I go get you groceries? That's community. And I can do that face to face. I prefer to be in the same room with you guys, but during these times, we can't be. So it starts with how are you actually interacting with your leaders, right? Because your leaders aren't just simply people God sent to you to reach students, but he also sent them to you for you to shepherd, right? So it starts there because most leaders don't know how to do online relationships. They don't. Again, they know how to do Facebook and sell a couch, but they don't put on a headset and do a Zoom call or game with the student or talk. I grew up playing video games where you did not wear a headset. You just had to focus the whole time. That's a whole nother skill set to talk. Hey, Bob, how's school doing? Oh, man, it's great, man. Hey, you're right. I try that now. I get freaked out. I quit playing video games. But this generation, they know how to do that. The second thing you have to do is you got to ask students how they're feeling. Their emotions change daily, weekly. If you love NBA 2K and Funyuns and you're in the 8th grade and you just found out that if you were passing classes before all this went down, you're automatically in the next grade, you're like, this is the best thing ever. But if you're a senior who plays baseball and had a scout come to check you out and you're missing prom and graduation, yeah, you might be excited that you're graduated, but you're not excited that, what about your scholarships? What about prom? You've been looking forward to prom your whole life. What about getting the cap, throwing it up, having your name called, getting your diploma? There's all these things. So that's a bad day, but it changes. So you've got to actually ask the students how they feel. I just don't think you can hop or should hop on there and just start saying, hey, this is horrible. Because they're going to be like, no, this ain't bad.
Yep.
Right.
I mean, it happened when most schools were in the middle of spring break. So who doesn't want an extra week of spring break?
Sure.
Like, they were like, extra couple weeks of spring break. Oh, wait, this is shut down now? Oh, this is horrible. But if you don't ask them, they won't know. So it actually, one, in my opinion, starts with your leaders. How are you being in community with those who you're actually asking to be in relationships with your students? And then, are you just putting out content, or are you simply saying, hey, here's the deal. How do you feel? What's going on? And that's just the way I would start.
Cool. Hey, you talked about this idea that we're kicking down the door to a world that our students have already existed in. How do you leverage that? How do you leverage the fact that the students know this better than any of us could even understand in the first place? Like, is there a strategy to that, or is there a plan to that?
I think there is. I think one of the things that God's been showing me through this is it's not something about being online. It's not something about having a TikTok account or a Twitter account or a Instagram account or having a YouTube channel putting out content. But it's these 3 words I think is like this. We need to create opportunities for student ownership, because students want to see students. Rewind 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
If you wanted to be famous, you lived in Oklahoma where I'm from, granted, you would pack up your bags and move to LA, New York, get a job as a waiter or waitress, go to audition, something along those lines, something along that. Now you pick up your phone, turn the selfie camera or buy a light ring and just start talking. Yep. And then you go, I don't know how to edit. And you go, oh, well, I don't have to, because all the videos of the famous people I know say things like, hey, if I remember, it'll be right here. But if I don't, it won't. And you think to yourself, 20 years ago, no one would have ever said that.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's almost like someone said, let's take the blooper reels and not edit them out. You know, it's like people edit content nowadays on YouTube or Instagram to make it fit within a window that's their video time, not to make it perfection. I mean, look at some of the top YouTube channels, right? You're like, whoa, this definitely would not play on NBC.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But hey, it works and people make lots of money, and it takes, if you have a phone, you're set. So students don't need to hear you talk all the time. How can you invite them to be a part of your story?
Mm-hmm.
How can you go, but I don't have a nice phone. If you have 10 students, one of them has a new phone with a nice camera.
Mm-hmm.
At least one of them has the ability to record and talk. It's not about creating content. It's about creating opportunities to have healthy relational community, right? I can point to great content. I don't need to start a podcast to have community. I can simply be like, hey guys, we're going to listen to my leaders. We're going to listen to Refill and then discuss it. I can be a curator, and that includes the students in your youth group. So don't think like you have to do I got to do these devotionals every day. No, you know that 10th grade boy who's been asking you, can he do stuff on the socials? And you're like, hey man, now's your opportunity. Shine. And guess what? You get to keep it going. And he's going to reach his friends. He's going to reach the people who already come to your church. It's going to expand beyond because you said, hey, here's the deal. Student opportunities. If you're asking me how to start, you've got to give students opportunities. It can't be, again, I'm not saying people are trying to be famous. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying the resources you need, God's already provided.
Yeah. Yep.
Right? If this would have happened, I don't know, 15 years ago when everyone actually would have had to run to Best Buy. Yep. You know, it would have been hard. Like, it would have been like, and you would have need to edit because people were like, ooh, that's rough. So.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's interesting. I mean, you made a couple points. Like, what I hear you saying, I translate this, is like, not only are we can't kick in the door, we have to actually ask ourselves in. And by doing that, we are asking ourselves in by saying, hey, how about you teach us about your world, giving them opportunities, and you're also individually guiding them. And it's a little bit of discipleship because now you're getting to empower those students, which is going to be something that's going to be more like this, something they'll talk about. They'll have a story, right? I was in the corona virus or whatever. And in that moment, I had discovered that I had a gift of technology that I didn't know I had. And that students because my youth pastor allowed me to do whatever, right? Like, they're going to tell this story. But I also hear you, talking about 15 years ago, man. I remember when this all happened, I told my wife and I told our students, I said, honestly, I said, I want to encourage you all are built for this, because it's like, if you would have gone back, my generation, if I would have flipped chairs, I was like, if I would have flipped chairs with you, and this would have been if I would have been in your seats 15 years ago, I would have had maybe a Nokia phone. And the best thing I would have had would have been Snake. And it's like, so shout out to Snake. But that would have been it. And I couldn't imagine what it would have been like. And I said, I told them, I told all of them, and I think that's what we have to constantly remember is exactly what you're saying is, this is their world. How do we use them to engage it? And so I really appreciate you speaking into that. What is something maybe based along those lines that you've seen done, whether that's from another youth ministry, your guys' youth ministry, that's been a good example of that? or maybe you haven't seen it and you're going, man, I just wish somebody would do this?
Yeah, I'll tell you about some of my favorite things that I've seen. One is student takeover days, where students just show the day in the life, how they're living, how they're surviving. It feels better to me to see someone who actually lives it talk about it versus someone who's a little bit removed from it. Like, hey, show me a senior who's coping with the fact they can't graduate versus showing me you telling me it's going to be okay. Like I can better relate to that. Like, granted, I've got a 17-year-old daughter. You heard me say, if you are a parent of anything younger than a 16-year-old, I value your advice, but you can't prepare me to be an empty nester. Like, you don't know the thoughts or the prayers or the things. You can pray for me. I would appreciate it, but it's almost like, hey, can I get, so me and my wife began looking for friends and people in our lives who have experienced being empty nesters, what it's like. Not that my daughter's moving out next week or something,
right?
But literally, like, hey, how do we prepare for that? And it's the same way. So just letting them take over, like do an IG live where you ask them questions and you don't guide their answers, but you shape or you throw out the extra hooks they may have missed. I've seen people do a message where instead of them just talking and throwing out hooks, they go, man, today we're talking about the hope in Jesus Christ. But for some of us, man, we're depressed and we're thinking, instead of us just done all the hooks, they go, but hear from a couple of students about how they thought. And so instead of you throwing out all the hooks that we all typically do, allow the students to do it. Then you hear from them. Then you go ahead and you continue to preach your message. And then you go, so what are some solutions that we could do? Now, you can state them, and there's nothing wrong with that, but bring those same students back who've actually walked through this process and be like, hey, now let's hear from them and how they actually cope, what they did. And let them kind of spout your 3 points or 2 points or 1 point, and then you can go along and be like, all right, so what did Bill say? Bill said A, 1. What did Susie said? Susie said 2. What did 3? So you don't have to be the person who creates it all. You can do an Instagram live where you interview a student. Like I said, let them take over. Make them a part of your message. Let them shoot a quick 2-minute message. Let them do daily devotionals, right?
Yeah.
Like, let the students be. Instead of you doing a reading plan with them, like Plans with Friends, I Love You version. Why don't you pick, if you've got 10 students, right? Take 2 and tell them, hey, pick 2 reading plans. Each of you pick 1, and we're going to put it out there to our 10 students and let them pick and choose. If you've got 100 students, pick 5 and say, each of y'all pick 5 reading plans, and then post it up in your IG page and say, hey, man, join one of these 5 plans, and let the students be the ones who lead through it. You don't have to be the one who leads through all that, but just allow them. So those are some of the ways that I've seen, like, students engage. And then some of the ones that, like, we're working on is like, you don't have to be the volunteer in your online service who does the moderating in the chats and the comments. Allow your students to do it. So we're actually looking at creating a volunteer leadership internship for high school students, because we're going to continue to do our Switch online service, our youth online service. But I don't need a bunch of youth pastors in there talking, because after about 5 minutes, they sound like a bunch of youth pastors. There's nothing wrong with that, but they just do. And then that decreases how the students talk. What I actually need in there is students who can talk in there and then reach out to the new people and say, hey, my name's Susie. Follow me on Instagram. Man, I'd love to give you some free resources or whatever, because that's how it works really well in adult church. Right? Like most online churches now have volunteers to cover all the services they have, because churches have actually added extra services more than what they normally had.
Right.
So we would just use students to make that happen. So using students, giving them more opportunities to serve in the space that they exist daily, to me, is a way to do it.
That's solid. This is one area that I don't know, it pulls at my heartstrings. It gets me fired up talking about the opportunity, the excitement, the the innovativeness of finally like, okay, we can finally get, we've talked about for years of we've been doing ministry the same way for so long. And now's the time to flip it. Now's the time to empower students and do this and really provide them opportunities and resources and get them out there and say, no, you go do it. We'll just sit here and do this. And so talk about that shift in a leadership mindset, kind of when you go from that focus of, oh, I'm the one that's supposed to be providing that. And now there's like, okay, what if I'm just giving the resources out to students and they're leading in that way? You get what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah,
what does that do to you as a leader, and how does that start to transform you and make you better?
Yeah. I believe everything rises and falls with leadership. And I believe that as a leader, sometimes we create our own ceilings, right? And those that we lead can't rise any higher than where we're at. But because we think we have to do it all or control it all or own it all, we force things down, right? When it's our goal to raise the leadership bar. Imagine an airplane flying over at 30,000 feet. Okay, man, imagine your view of what you can see. You can see all the amazing scenery, the cities. If it's nighttime, you can see the lights. If there was a fire, you can see that. You can see baseball stadiums, fields, things like that. But let's say you lower down and land the plane. Okay. What have you done? You've now decreased your view. Now you can hardly see anything, right? You can't keep an eye on the total ministry, right? So most people land the plane to solve problems. Those are things that you can celebrate or actual problems, right?
Yep.
But if you go, I'm going to refuel in flight. I'm going to bring the leaders I have up here to see what I see. It forces them to have a different perspective where they go, oh, looking at it from that way, I see what you're talking about. Let me go back down here and work on that. As a leader, the reason you feel that stress, that anxiety in top leaders is because you're empowering and trusting people, right? You're exercising new muscles that you've never used before. And so now you have to do that because you're like, okay, we've had the conversation. I hope this works out, because that's how you feel inside. But most of the times we go, don't worry about it. I got it. I'll do it.
Yep.
But when you pull them up here, you're raising their level of leadership, which is going to force you to grow your level of leadership. And the more you bring them up, and they will do the same thing for their leaders, because they are only going to do what you do. So if you own and control everything, they will own and control everything because they've never seen anyone not do that. So if you're like, hey, no, there are opportunities. If you want a small group leader who is encouraging his students to own the small group, to ask questions, to pray for people, to talk up in the chat, if you're not doing it for that small group leader, I promise you, on rare occasions, they may do it, but for the most part, most of your small group leaders will not do it. And that small group will be 100% dependent upon that leader. And if you think about it as an adult, most adults, church-going, Jesus-loving people are in some type of small group. I don't know what you call it. Sometimes it's the name of your church group.
Right.
But whatever, or you call it small groups. When's the last time your personal small group didn't meet because the leader couldn't be there? But in youth groups, it happens all the time.
So good.
Yeah.
Right? And then what happens when a student goes to college and we didn't pick out their small group leader? They don't know what to do because from birth to 12th grade, we've picked out their small group leader. We've told them what to do every Wednesday night or Sunday morning. And we never raised the bar, the level, and given them an opportunity to lead and serve, right? And you've got to do that because one day they will not be a part of your ministry, right?
Yep.
There are clear walls on every youth ministry. And now I don't know what grades they are, but let's just say 6th grade and 12th grade. At 6th grade, you say, come on in. Love to have you. And at 12th grade, you say, here's senior night. We love you. We're praying for you. Here's a gift from us. Real quick question. Do you want to serve in the ministry? You don't? Been nice hanging out with you. but I got a whole new other group of sixth graders to come in and take care of. But if you go that whole time, I've been elevating these students' leadership because I've been elevating the leaders, the volunteers' leadership. I've been elevating my leadership. You can't own everything. And here's a great example. I know for a fact, every youth ministry is the same components of a weekend service church. All the same components.
Right.
Most of the times they're smaller. Sometimes youth groups are larger.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, we don't run them like that. We run them based on our skill sets. Like, hey, I'm not administrative. Can I get an administrative person? Or, hey, I'm not that relational. Can I get a relational person? When I'm not saying that's wrong, but if you look at it and go, if this is exactly like a weekend service just with less giving, then maybe I need to put systems and structures in place that will outlive and outlast me.
That's good.
So just like your weekend service has a system and structure in place that's designed for growth and not simply based on your strengths. So if you're a youth group of 10 and you want to be a youth group of 100 because you want all 10 of your kids to invite 10 friends and impact them over the next year, well, how will you do that? Who's going to think about small groups? Well, that takes a lot of energy. What church does not have a small group pastor, right? Who thinks about small groups the whole time?
Right.
Most churches have someone who thinks about systems and structure the entire time. Most churches have someone who thinks about worship and the experience the entire time. Most churches have someone who thinks about first impressions or host team or hospitality the entire time. Who thinks about all those components for your youth ministry the entire time? If you do it at some point in time, you're going to leave something behind. Like you'll get your small groups working really well and where they need to be. And then you'll be like, okay, that's good. I don't have to worry about that. Let me put this on the back burner. Then you'll hop over and you'll be like, okay, we need to work on our experience. And you'll work on that. And then you'll put that down. You're like, oh, we need some new systems and structures. But if you had a group of people who thought about that and you don't have to hire staff, these can be volunteers. Yep. And in most cases, these can even be students. Or these can be adult volunteers who are leading students to think about these things the entire time, who are having these conversations so you don't find yourself stretched in every direction because it's difficult. But if you elevate yourself up and then pull your leaders up with you, your view, their view, man, you'll change the game on what you're doing, but you got to let go. Well, you got to let go.
Right.
You got to trust. You got to be like, all right, this is going to stretch me, Lord, but I'm ready. Let's go.
I think there's so many of us that have been in this season of, okay, this is new, this is unknown, this is crazy to go online or whatever it looks like for that church. And we're comfortable asking those questions of, how do I grow? What do I do new? What needs to look different? I think that all that you just said of finding that person to put in that place is huge. But I think my biggest fear right now is I'm watching the conversation has shifted in the last 2 weeks. Rather than, oh, this is novel, this is new, this is unknown, and I'm excited, to all of a sudden things have been getting quieter. And then now that states are starting to reopen, it's going towards, well, I'm ready to go back to the way it was. I'm ready to go back to what church was. My question to you would be, what is the biggest fear of, I don't want to go back to that. I don't want to go back to the way it was. What do we need to remember coming out of this long term to change permanently?
Okay. Here's what I would say. The Lord hit me with this the other day, and so I'm going to share it with you guys, and hopefully it will. Mark 2:22, it's also in Matthew and Luke, I believe also. But it says, and no one puts new wine into old wineskins. If he does, the wine will burst the skins. The wine is destroyed, and so are the skins. But new wine is for fresh wine skins.
And then preach.
Here's the deal. God did not give you the innovation to make Band-Aids, because Band-Aids aren't innovation.
Right.
They're Band-Aids.
Right.
You were called and were allowed to innovate in a way you never have before. Don't be afraid of new wine skins. Sure, it's going to take time for them to stretch out and feels soft. It's like that new baseball glove. You know, you got to tape it right around the baseball, put the oil in it, take it out, play with it, do it again, all that stuff, right? And you might be going, man, I know this old glove, man, it's fitting. And God's like, here's the deal. You reach students that you didn't even know you were reaching. You assume because you had 100 students in your youth ministry and 100 students online, it was the same 100 students. That's not true. Right? I just need you to know that probably half your kids didn't even show up online, maybe less than that. Okay? You thought because you had 100 students and only 25 showed up online that it wasn't a success. And God's like, no. When you launched this youth group, did you start at 100 or did you have to start someplace from the beginning? And I just believe it's clear that God's like, here's the deal. There are new opportunity and new advantages for things to take place and make a difference. Again, the goal is not to avoid human contact and never have a in-person meeting again. I think you should be excited about becoming face-to-face. We were designed for that. If that's never been more evident, I've got introvert friends who are like, you know what? I do like people. I didn't know but when I actually cannot be around them, I love them. Right? But think about all the students who will never walk to the doors of your church, and the first stop for them is the online space. Think about, you can't let that go. The entire church has said for 8 weeks, depending on when you stopped, the church is not a building.
Yep.
But in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 10 weeks, whenever you meet, you won't say those words, but you will say this. Hey, how you doing, new kid in the building? Yeah, I saw you talking to your parents, man, and I heard you were 15, Susie or Billy or whatever, and you love football. Man, I got some football players who come to our youth group. Yeah, we meet every Wednesday night or Sunday night or Saturday morning at noon. Can you be there? Oh, no, man, I got practice. Oh, I'll tell you what, man, on the days you don't have practice or when the season's over, come on in. You just said, hey, the church is a building and I can't help you because you can't make it. Versus you could have said, hey, man, over that whole COVID-19, we actually started doing a couple of online small groups. And so we got one that meets on Tuesday nights and one that meets on Sunday nights. Can you make one of those? Again, you don't have to give every possible option, but you can say, here's the deal. Man, we're putting our best foot forward. Do you have to be the ones leading them? No, I bet you got a tech-savvy volunteer or a student who can be like, yeah, man, Saturday morning Zoom calls. What do we do? Oh, we talk about the message. Yeah, or we talk about life, or we talk about the message. We don't put our messages online? You don't have to. I can list you 9,000 other churches that put messages online.
Yeah,
you can find one of those. There are great curriculum that exist all over. You know, like Feed.Bible, completely free resource. You can use that. You can discuss Bible project videos. You can, whatever it is, it's out there. I believe the building is a tool that allows us to connect people, right? Let's not let the building be a crowbar that separates us from people, right? And so you've got to look at it that way. For me, it's the innovation. Please be excited to go back in your building. I am so excited to see face-to-face small groups. Matter of fact, when we come back, for like the first 4 or 5 times we come back, all we're doing is small groups.
That's
like,
great.
We ain't doing nothing. I'm going to have a youth pastor on stage. Be like, hey, man, so glad y'all here. Small group leaders, run it. And at the end of the day, about 15 minutes before an hour, he's going to say, hey, man, this is what I recognize. Man, we've missed this, and I'm so glad you're here. Feel free to come back next week. But I know there's some of y'all in here who may not know Jesus. You might have come with a friend because you started meeting at Life Church, and he's going to present the gospel and give people an opportunity to know Jesus. He's going to say, all right, small group leaders, y'all got about 10 more minutes, have a conversation, wrap it up. And we're going to do that for 4 or 5 weeks because for a youth group, in my opinion, the heart of what we do is healthy small groups. And we're not going to advertise it on our social media. We're not going to talk about it from stage. We're literally just going to tell our leaders, hey, tell your students small group this Wednesday. Right. Because it's the heart of what we do, those relationships. It's not about the small parties, the medium-sized party, and the large parties, but it's literally the heart, that context of small groups, that trust relationship. Because this generation, this Gen Z is different, and they know how to consume content online. They've been doing it. They do it all. Not only they consume it, they know how to create it quick and fast. And so it's a great opportunity for us to say, here's the deal. We're welcoming you back. I'm so good to have you. But we will not ignore the city we just reached, known as the old interwebs, as some of the old folks like to say.
Sure. Yep. Yeah, that's good. I have kind of thought through this that probably the longest portion of any sort of service for adults or youth will be the turn and greet your neighbor sort of section, part of the time, whether that's small groups, whether that's just like, hey, we're just glad we're in the same room together. Y'all just talk and that's it. Like we're going to sing and that's it, instead of somebody getting up there and preaching for 45 minutes. Because we don't need more content, right? Like that's what you said. We don't need more content. We need that relational connection. We need that shoulder to shoulder thing. And yeah, that's incredible. So Vince, for you in this time period, what are some things that have been revealed in you? Maybe there's some things that you're like, you know what? I was really holding on to this and that's really not worth my time to hold on to anymore. And I can let it go. Or what's something that you were like, this is what I really need to hold on to?
Oh man, I think I was holding on to some fears and some anxieties just about life, just how I approach things in leadership. This has been a real eye-opening personal thing. Sometimes you can think you're past something and you can honestly be, but the enemy is like, I'll just slip that in, So sometimes there were conversations that I knew I need to have that I wouldn't have. Right? I was like, I think I can if I did A and then talk to this person over here, then they can, right? Yep. I realized that, man, I'm really way too extroverted. I love talking to people way too much. I'm like, I can still be productive and do that. And I was like, I don't need to do that. Sometimes I just need to buckle down and just knock some stuff out and get it done. I don't need to work for 10 minutes and then go have a 45-minute conversation.
Sure.
But I realized that, man, I just need to enjoy who God is more.
Okay.
Right?
What does that look like?
Man, I just walks with my wife daily, sitting on our back porch, doing house projects, hanging out with my daughter, playing Uno, watching TV shows together. Just going, okay, is there a way for us to slow down? And the answer is yes. Now, you might say to yourself, again, I have a 17-year-old who can drive, is about to be 18 in a week. Happy birthday, sweetheart. I don't know why you would listen to this podcast, but if you do, happy birthday. But going, you might have to start the sporting events for your kids back up.
Right.
But if your kid's in 9 things, do they have to be in all 9 things? Right. You just discovered how to work from home effectively. Can you figure out how to not do that all the time, but maybe figure out how to have breakfast with your spouse in the morning?
Yep.
For some of us, man, this is coming to a close. For some of us, we have a few more weeks.
Right.
When's the last time you just stopped and asked your spouse, how am I doing as someone who works from home, especially if your spouse stays home?
Yep.
How can we just take the time, the effort, the energy to simply say, you know what? I can breathe. That God is enough despite the circumstances. That his love overflows and I can sit and I can rest in that. Or have you just decided, man, I've got to push through and fill every minute with something that's not God? Right? And I don't mean like in a negative way or negative things, because hard work is good, but sometimes we're afraid of the silence.
Yeah. Right.
Sometimes we're afraid of what happens if we just stop and enjoy the moment. Right. I think this has been eye-opening so many different ways. I would say this. Do not allow this time to just be innovation for your ministry, but allow it to be innovation for your personal soul.
So good.
Allow that to take a next step. Don't let this be the Band-Aid that you go, oh, that was good. And 5 years from now, you go, man, I could go for another quarantine. I don't want all the sickness. I don't want all the death. I don't want all the job loss. But if someone could figure out how to give me a couple weeks off, when everyone else is relaxing, that would be great because then I wouldn't feel burnt out.
Right. I think when boss asked you, what does that look like? And I heard you starting to explain what it looked like, I was like, please let him say the word slow down. Because I think what's so interesting is like, I had this conversation with a student actually, because he asked me about fasting. And I said, it's so funny that when we fast, we always want to fill it. Like we fast from something, but then we're supposed to put God there, but then we fill it with something else. I said, this is exactly the same moment where it's almost like God is asking us, hey, we're forced to slow down. And as a country that just doesn't know how, you go to any other third world country and it's constantly slow. There's no consistency like of time and space and movement. And so I think it's so good, Vince. I thank you so much for being able to say that with so much confidence.
Yeah.
And even say like 5 years from now that we don't go, man, you know what? I kind of miss quarantine. And I think if we get there, even not 5 years, I think we might get there in 5 weeks after this thing is said and done.
Yeah.
If we're not careful. And then what I hope is that when we get there, we realize, oh, I've hurried myself back up, but I do know how to slow down now. And I think if nothing else, we all can walk away from this moment and say, hey, at least I learned how to stop and see my family, how to stop and walk with my wife, how to stop and have a quiet time, even though I was like, I'm the pastor, like, oh, this is actually what it looks like. And so I think Vince, I really appreciate that word. I think it's something that I hope people make it through the 50 minutes to hear that. And so thank you so much for that.
Oh, you're welcome.
So Vince, what as we wrap up, is there anything else maybe that we didn't touch on that you were like, man, this has just been sitting with me and I just want to share this, or is there another thought that you wanted to add on to one of the questions we asked?
Nope. I just pray for those who listen to this is that, hey, let this be innovation for you and for your ministry, but most importantly for you. Right? Because everything rises and falls with leadership. If you aren't healthy, then nothing else matters. Jesus didn't die on the cross so you can have a healthy ministry. He died on the cross for you.
Amen. There it is.
Good.
Vince, how can people connect with you? If they heard something, they were like, I got to talk to that guy.
Yeah, man. Hit me up on the IG at Vince L. Parker, or you can email me at vince.parker@life.church. Either way, connect with me there.
Awesome. Vince, we really appreciate it. Thanks so much for taking time to sit down and just have an honest conversation about all this. This is exciting and really, really appreciate your giftings and your knowledge and your insight and through all of this. So thank you.
Oh, you're welcome, guys. Thanks again for having me. It's been a great time. I love that you guys do this. It's amazing.
So that was an incredible conversation with Vince. There's so much stuff to unpack from that conversation. We are all jacked up just after talking with Vince and thinking about youth ministry and what we can learn from this COVID crisis and what we will take and what we'll leave when we come out of all of this stuff is really exciting. Maybe there was something you heard. Maybe you're overwhelmed. Maybe you're encouraged. We hope that something happens from this conversation with Vince because he has just given us a wealth of knowledge, a wealth of experience, his perspective on ministry. He's never experienced a crisis like this before. And that's what's super cool about this is that, well, honestly, none of us have. And it levels the playing field, which means that we all need each other. We all need to lean into each other. And believe it or not, there are people that are in your area. They're looking to be in community with you. They need you to be in their group. They need to be with you and have some sort of community, whether that's a digital space or at some point you're watching this and we're out of it and we can gather physically. They want to join together with you, and we can do that. Or we can do that by getting on our website. Go to NNYM.org, search your area, and there's all sorts of things that are going to pop up when you search to find a network in your area so that you can connect with youth leaders. I'm rambling on because I'm just really excited. But also another thing is if you heard this and you were inspired by something, please share this with somebody. Maybe there's somebody out there they don't listen to this podcast. They haven't subscribed yet, which is totally cool. But they need to hear it and they might be blessed by it. So share it with them. That would be great. Also, if maybe you're watching on YouTube with us and hit subscribe. I think that's what we're supposed to tell you so that you can get our latest content when we push it out there. This is the first time we've ever done this, so we're trying some new stuff around here. So thanks for watching with us. Thanks for being with us. If you're just listening by audio, we're on a bunch of different platforms now. Follow us on the socials. And also, as we wrap up, here's the deal. Remember, you can't pour out to others if you don't pour into yourself first, because you'll have nothing left. So make sure you're doing that. Take time for yourself. Take time to refill yourself and re-energize yourself. And we pray that this episode did that for you. Blessings. We'll see y'all later. Peace.